Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are not finished games. One look at the jittery pop-in, camera regularly clipping through bounds, and inconsistent frame rate will confirm this fact. Pre-release, critics and fans alike critiqued the lack of polish, non-existent quality control, and the incompetent optimization efforts of Game Freak and the Pokemon Company. And yet, within 3 days of its release, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet had surpassed 10 million units sold, and today sits at over 24 million units sold, making it one of the top 3 highest selling releases in the series. The kids bought it, the adults bought it, hell, I bought it, and you too, even though we all can agree that this incomplete game isn't worth it, you will buy it anyway. Video game publishers will never improve their products or practices until consumers stop supporting them. So many anti-consumer practices have become commonplace in the gaming industry of today. Loot boxes, DLC, unfinished games being left to be fixed in post-launch updates, never-ending microtransactions, content being locked behind separate pre-order bonus editions of the same game, and every single thing about EA. Encapsulating almost all of these practices are the recent cropping up of live service games, which many fans bemoan the existence of and seeming insistence of studios in the pursuit of developing these products. Yet these studios base their actions on the numbers. Live service games make up almost half of what all of gamers are playing per month. Call of Duty, EA Sports games, Fortnite, GTA Online, Genshin Impact, Roblox. All of these titles that so many people criticize and dislike the practices of are what the majority of people are playing. Someone is lying here, and it's not me. I'm playing Blitzball. It's become increasingly clear that as time goes on, games are made for the sole purpose of monetization as opposed to being an engaging player experience. As not only are these shameless anti-consumer practices already mentioned littered all throughout most AAA releases, but many studios are prioritizing the development of games that can most effectively be monetized. And if these shameless attempts at sucking consumers dry was not enough, companies such as Nintendo are leading the charge for what seems to inevitably be $100 for a physical game becoming the standard. While games are becoming more expensive to develop, the state most AAA games release in is not worth the current price of admission, much less an upcharged one. Sure, some select few games may be worth their retail value, but for every Red Dead Redemption 2 that justifies the price tag, there is a sea of Star Wars Outlaws, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and the never-ending abyss of EA Sports games that recycle the last year's product. How many games launch in an abysmal, unfinished, unpolished state? Given excuses such as the publishers rushed the developers to launch the games, or promises to fix the games post-launch. It is not the consumer's job to accept a half-baked product. It is the company's job to release a product good enough for a consumer to want to buy. And much less so, what consumer will want to buy an unfinished game that begs them to spend even more money every 5 seconds on loot boxes, microtransactions, DLC, gacha elements, battle passes, and Virgil? With Nintendo opening the floodgates to an $80 or even $90 game, other developers will surely follow, and the days of the $100 video game will become the standard. Ubisoft's Philippe Tremblay infamously has stated he believes gamers need to become comfortable not owning their games. And with companies such as Nintendo vaulting their games only more and more aggressively as time goes on, this era will soon too come to be commonplace in the industry. Recently, Nintendo has announced Switch 2 game cards will not contain game data on the cartridge you are paying $90 for, and instead grants consumers a virtual game card, passkeys that enable them to download a digital copy of the games they've purchased. While digital copies of games offer convenience, the online services that house these libraries can be shut down, permanently locking away games that consumers have bought. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World was locked away on the Xbox 360 marketplace for years until the recent port to modern hardware, the PS3 and PS Vita stores, the Wii Shop channel, or Wii U and 3DS eShops. Entire libraries of games and consumers' access to these games they've purchased wiped away on a company's whim. Nintendo's virtual game card effectively forces the consumer to buy permission from Nintendo to download their game. Permission that can at any time, or perhaps upon the shutdown of an online service, be taken away from the consumer. And as Ubisoft have demonstrated, other large gaming companies will follow suit, and consumers will not own anything other than keys to a vault that the companies can choose to shut at any time. Obviously, gaming companies and their insatiable greed are the problem here. But so are you. Many condemn Ubisoft for their history of falsely advertising products, but only after they've purchased their newest game to point comparison to. Even more criticize the absurd price points of games that only seem to be rising, but only because they know that money will leave their wallet. And while several lament the releasing of unfinished products that are still sold for full price, several others defend the game and say that it will be patched and finished soon. If people truly dislike these growing anti-consumer practices in the gaming industry, false advertising, high price points, unfinished releases that are expected to be patched later, ever-growing microtransactions, and games overall being designed primarily for monetization as opposed to player experience, then the only way to speak is through the act of not supporting the companies that engage in these practices. Pokémon ZA is the newest upcoming release in the top-grossing franchise of all time's predominant medium. The game features flat buildings with blurry textures that attempt to create the illusion of depth, and poor lighting that only does the game's simplistic look justice in dark environments where the imperfections can be masked. What starter were you going to pick? Because we both know you'll buy it anyways.